This is the story about a man named John. To most, he gave the image of looking like he lived a normal life in Knox County, Kentucky, and to be honest, he mostly did. Overall, he was happy with how things were going for him and his dog Daisy in Knox County. John enjoyed the simple things in life, shopping at his nearby convenience store for groceries, going on nice long walks through the local town, killing zombies. Okay, well that zombie part certainly is more of a recent addition to pass his time. That is, ever since it started. The Knox Event. John first noticed trouble brewing on July the 6th, and it was made clear to him over the news that a quarantine zone had been set up around Knox County by the National Guard. Further to this, police and ambulance sirens could be heard throughout the day whenever John left his house. Something strange was going on. They called this event the Sickness, and apparently it was causing people to go insane. All John could do was sit tight in his home with Daisy. With Daisy sat outside as usual, he was busy upstairs sorting through his belongings. Suddenly, he heard commotion outside. John raced downstairs to see Daisy being attacked by two insane people who had now come crashing through his windows. Quickly drawing his machete, John cut these maniacs to pieces, but it was too late. Daisy was dead. John held himself together and took her to the garden where she would be buried next to her dog kennel. It was at this moment that John snapped. He made off straight for his bedroom. You see, John was actually no ordinary man. He was John Wick, a trained killer, assassin, a man you don't want to mess with. And he was about to unleash hell on those zombie freaks that had taken his little Daisy. Knox County was not ready for what he had in store. Arriving in his bedroom, John would finally rediscover his dark past. Opening his wardrobe and taking out a big black duffel bag, he would unzip it to reveal his hidden stash of military-grade firearms. Alongside this, hung up in the wardrobe, was his trusty suit jacket and his shiny leather gloves. After clearing off the dust, John would once again suit up as he'd done ever so often in his dark past. With his uniform finally on, he would load his magazines and head downstairs armed to the teeth. His trusty MP5, now in hand, he had everything he needed to kill every last one of those maniac things that killed his little Daisy. John Wick would set off into Knox County for answers. Heading down his drive, John immediately dispatched of the first maniac he encountered. He almost immediately regained his proficiency with a machete, but that wasn't what he needed most right now. Instead, it was a vehicle. Having sent his Mustang in for repairs just days earlier, he had no car of his own. He quickly spotted his neighbour's truck and made his way over. His arrival had brought the attention of those nearby maniacs, and he disposed of them quickly and quietly. Smashing open the window, he searched for a key, but he had no luck. This van was not meant to be. He instead made his way further up the road. Not long after, John had his first sense of real danger as he was ganged up on by multiple of these maniacs at once. However, they were simply no match for his machete. It was now becoming clear to John that these things really could be a danger if in number, and so he kept his pistols close by his side. With that group of maniacs now dead, he moved on to the next car, an orange sedan. However, smashing its window caused more of those maniacs to make their way over. Were they attracted to loud noises? John wasn't sure, but either way, it was of no concern right now, as he had more of those things to kill just outside the house. With even less luck with this car, John carried on forth and made his way to the main road, where he would encounter even more of those things trundling towards him. Luring them back into the driveway, he would quickly eliminate all of them. His pistols still safely tucked away in his holsters, he had not had to use them just yet. John would continue to search the nearby houses for any working vehicles. He would have no luck. More and more maniacs would continue to show up get in his way. Finally, he arrived at the local grocery store and multiple vehicles were parked outside. John disposed of the nearby maniacs and got to work smashing into the vehicles to look for a spare key. That would be the case if he wasn't constantly harassed, but alas, he dealt with the threat and continued to work. Both the brown and blue car would be searched, but nothing would show for it. After dispatching another maniac, John would try the nearby Range Rover. That also would provide no use for John. In the last-ditch attempt, John would try the most unlikely vehicle, the US Army transport bus. And it worked! He had found the key and the engine roared to life. With this huge stroke of luck, John set off down the road in his newly acquired asset. His mission? To get towards the neighbouring town of Rosewood, where he might find further answers about this Knox event. With sunlight beaming down into his driver's cabin, John set off on the long journey ahead. He trailed through the different streets in his hometown of Muldra, plowing into many of those maniacs as he went. Street by street he drove, and he saw nothing but desolation and death. Maniacs littered the roads. Where was everyone? How had Muldra been overrun by these things so easily? John had many more questions. They had to stay focused on the road ahead. After reaching the main highway, John would put his pedal to the metal. Activating his emergency lights, he would zoom westwards. After some time driving, he would reach his first obstacle. It seemed like he'd already found a plausible answer for his previous question. The people of Muldra seemingly tried to escape, but got caught in major traffic jams on the highway due to military blockades of the extraction zone borders. John could not get stuck in traffic like the rest, and with a careful bit of driving, he manoeuvred his bus through what remained of the traffic jam. Taking the junction road north, John was now on his way up to Rosewood. Hours had passed, and John was getting a little bored. In the distance, he spotted a sparse collection of maniacs. Being far away from civilization, this was the perfect opportunity for him to get his guns out and start blasting. And so he did. John drew his MP5, quickly racked it. 30 bullets, 30 less maniacs. John was feeling confident, and so he made his presence known to all the nearby maniacs by shouting into the distance. Drawing the attention of them all, he began to let loose. Round after round, left his firearm, and he felt good. The maniacs were dropping like flies. Left and right, they fell to the floor. John was doing God's work. As John fired his gun, more and more of these maniacs appeared from the tree line. John had obviously underestimated the situation and quickly realised there was a lot more than he'd previously thought. This did not deter John, and he stayed steadfast, blasting away at those blasted maniacs. Seconds turned to minutes, and minutes turned to hours. Before he knew it, John had spent a very long time out on the road using these maniacs as target practice. With the sun beginning to set, and the night sky becoming prevalent, John packed away his gun and looked back at the carnage he had caused. This is justice for Daisy, he thought, before hopping back into his bus and heading northwards once more towards Rosewood. John could at least rejoice at the knowledge he had certainly not lost his knack as a marksman all those years later. After another while driving, John came across some abandoned emergency vehicles. He drew his guns once more and used them to clear out the zombies, before setting to work scavenging the vehicles for any sort of loot or knowledge he could gain. As he reached the police truck, he saw a dead officer inside, clutching at a bloodied paper folder. Quickly picking this up, John saw it read "Classified" in bold on the front cover. His eyes lit up. However, he could not read it just yet, as he had many more maniacs approaching him, seemingly attracted by his previous gunfire. John got to work once more, using his gun to kill all the maniacs. He quickly hopped back in his bus and headed to Rosewood. As he drove closer to Rosewood, John read more into the classified documents. The gist of it was that the documentation of how the police chief was supposed to send support to patrol and guard the Rosewood country roads to stop unwanted citizens from gaining access to a hidden government property deep in the Rosewood forest. John had to find out more, and this letter clearly did not document it all, or at least the location of this facility. He now had to head to the Rosewood police station so he could try and get more information from the chief's office. It was going to be a long road ahead. It was now very late in Knox County, and John was extremely hungry and thirsty after not having eaten since he left his house all those hours earlier. Driving through the entrance of Rosewood town, he remembered he'd passed one of his favourite food chains, Spiffos. The taste of their delicious burgers and fries made his tummy rumble and his mouth water, so he sped up to head over to the burger shop. Quickly parking up outside, he sped past the maniac to get inside the dark Spiffo room. With his machete drawn, he one-shot the only maniac he could find in the room. With glass windows all around him, these would surely give way soon as many maniacs began to smack down on them. They quickly did. One by one, the windows broke and maniacs began to seep into the room. He drew his 1911 and opened fire on the first 3 maniacs that were before him. They fell so easily, but John knew the repercussions of his actions. More would soon show up because of the loud gunshots he'd created. He didn't care, he was ready to kill them all. John quickly unzipped his backpack and drew his prized possession, his famed Spars 12. Equipping it in both hands, he frantically drew shotgun shells from the unopened box loaded up in his backpack. He had to load his gun fast, as there was a trail of maniacs behind him now. The perfect chance to unleash his fury on them. The group was soon turned to mush, as one blast from the Spars 12 hit them all and knocked them all to the floor. There were now many stragglers in the room, and not wanting to waste any more shotgun shells on lone maniacs, John switched back to his pistol to finish them off. With more and more maniacs strewing into the room, John was backed up into a corner and his life flashed before his eyes as the maniacs almost got on top of him. He quickly unleashed a flurry of rounds into them, neutralising the immediate threat. He was safe. For now. John would continue to be swarmed, but being so dark in the room, and all the sides being breached, he decided it would be safer to head out into the lit car park and finish off the maniacs there instead. With his shotgun loaded, he continued to fire before switching to his pistol to finish the rest of them off. With the noise no longer being dampened by the room, more and more maniacs were arriving in a larger and larger number. At one point, John almost got surrounded, but he used his trusty Tech 9 to stay safe and take them all out. He had done it. After almost 100 rounds having been fired, John had dealt with all the maniacs in the nearby vicinity. There were a few stragglers left, hanging on the Spiffo windows. They were no match for John. To avoid bringing further maniacs to his location, John switched back to his machete and cleared out the last of them. One maniac remained. Bang, 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 the door went as it tried to break its way out to kill John. Instead, John traced back around and put the thing down. After what felt like forever, John finally sat down at the Spiffo fast food place and had a tasty burger and fries. They were freezing cold, but they were certainly delicious. With his thirst quenched and his tummy full, John jumped back into his bus and set off down the road towards the police HQ. Speeding down the street, John would finally spot it. The Rosewood County Police Department. Pulling into the driveway, he immediately noticed how many maniacs there were everywhere. He sprinted into the building, but he couldn't close the door in time due to some maniacs on the inside entrance blocking the area. He knew if he didn't close that door fast, the whole group would get inside. He quickly drew his Tech 9 and neutralised the 2 maniacs indoors, before racing to take down the third and close that door. He did it, only by the skin of his teeth. He didn't have long. That door would quickly give way, and his gunshots would only draw more attention of nearby maniacs. He needed to locate the chief's office fast. He went up and down the station hallways with his pistol ready in case there were any roaming maniacs, but it seemed mostly safe. Loading the shotgun with fresh shells, he double-backed on himself, heading back towards the entrance when he saw it. The horde had broken through. If he did not act fast, he would be completely surrounded. He burst into the main room, and then in the corner saw the chief's office. A maniac was inside, but he quickly put it down. John rushed into the chief's office and tried to filter through the filing cabinet and desk for any useful information regarding the Knox event, but there wasn't enough time. If he didn't get out of that office fast, he would be trapped. After expending all the ammo in his magazine, he holstered it and switched back to his shotgun, killing all the maniacs nearby. With the first wave down, he had enough time to reload his shotgun and head back into the chief's office and search once more for any useful information. He was undisturbed for long enough to finally find some useful information, a map showing the location of the patrol route required to keep the government facility locked down. From this, he could trace the location of the facility to a position deep in the woods north of here. He didn't have long to think though, as the car park door flew off its hinges and a large mass of maniacs came bolting into the room. John was now in trouble. With his fully loaded 1911 and Tech 9, plus plenty of shotgun shells, he would get to work, clearing the room, dealing with the horde. Many rounds later, John would finally be done with the group, leaving only lone stragglers to be finished off. He had made sure to take plenty of ammunition with him, and it was good that he had, as he was almost out. With the confidential documents now tucked away in his bag, and the maniacs all dealt with, John made his way back to his bus and set off on the long road ahead. The atmosphere was building, with a dense fog setting over the town. This not only made it harder to see where he was going, it also made it easier for the maniacs to sneak up on him. Things were already hard enough for John, but this was really going to add difficulty to his mission. He drove back up the same road he had used to get to the police station, ramming more maniacs out of the way as he did so. He finally made it to the T-junction, and this time, using information from his police documents, he took a left and set off northwards to the Rosewood forest. The documents mentioned a gravel path that would be on his left. What was to most an unremarkable road actually led to a secret government facility deep in the forest. John kept his eyes wide open, as this road could appear from anywhere. After around 35 minutes of driving, he found it. He slammed on his brakes, took the opening left, following the gravel road down. The fog was still thick around him, and he had an eerie feeling building. A feeling of dread also built as John's truck moved on from the gravel ground into the mud, where it began to slow down till it came to a miserable stop. You see, the ground was still wet from the storms that had occurred over the past few days across Knox County, and the heavy bus could just not drive any further in the mud. If John wanted to progress onwards, he would have to go on foot. John jumped out of the bus and made his way down the road. What lay in store for John Wick next? We would soon find out. Hey guys, so thank you so much for watching to the end. I really hope you have enjoyed this one. This definitely is a different video to what I normally do, but I do want to try out some more Project Zomboid content in the future. I've currently got a Project Zomboid Roleplay series going on. Not as high level as this, more of a silly, funny show, but definitely check that one out if you have not already. And yeah, please leave a like and please do subscribe if you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more Project Zomboid roleplay content, story content in the future. Once again, thanks a million and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.